Thank you, people. This is freaking great. Oh my God. The judge, what's his name? Sheriff Judge, Grady Judd. Oh my God, dude. He slams this freaking little left-wing pink panty, Obama voting, Hillary voting, Biden voting idiot who's asking questions trying to trick him up. But I'm not sure if he's 100% correct. Let's watch this. It's a pretty good little video here.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us.
And I have it on 1.5 speed, so it sounds like he's talking fast. Sorry.
Or good afternoon. Thank you for being with us today. You know, there's some things in life that's got to be true because you just can't make it up. So I want to introduce you to a young man who's 32 years of age, and he's old enough to know better, Christopher Hendricks. Now, if you don't know Christopher, you ought to take a look at him. There was a lot of people that got to meet him this morning around I-4 and 557 at the Marathon gas station.
When he says a lot of people, this dude was kind of on a crime spree.
This is a picture of Christopher. It's a very nice picture in his state prison outfit. You see, he was sentenced to 10 years in state prison for aggravated battery, which was a plea down from attempted murder.
A lot of people don't realize that. When you, as a cop, when I read plea deals and I look at the charge that they pled to, I know this person did worse than what they pled to. That's why they took the plea. They knew they were going to be guilty of the higher crime. Rick, that's not true. Innocent people plead. All right, whatever. Go have another donut that's got freaking rainbow feelings on it.
He did his full sentence, which with gain time comes up to about almost 8 years, and was released.
8 years for attempted murder because he pled to aggravated assault. 8 years. This is why crime is up. This is why the prisons are not filled with the same people.
Apparently he behaved, or at least he was not caught, for 3 years.
It's a good point. He didn't behave. He hasn't been caught. Rick, that's not true. You're being hard.
So let's fast forward to this morning. This morning at 7:45, he is on Interstate 4, and he's involved in a hit-and-run crash. That's right. He crashes his vehicle that's registered to him, and as he runs off of the road into the swampy area in his vehicle, Christopher says to himself, "Self, I don't think I want to hang around for this," so he runs. I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish because the vehicle was registered to Christopher Hendricks.
Okay, my guess is Christopher had guns and dope in the car, and when he ran, he took the guns and dope with him, and somewhere between all this, he has either stashed or hid.
He's from Bellevue, Florida, which is in the area of Ocala. Well, now Christopher is on foot. He's fleeing on foot from this hit-and-run crash he's involved in that the Highway Patrol is working. And
okay, hit-and-run crash, first crime. Could have, I don't know if it was hit-and-run with injuries or without injuries, but he hits somebody. When he hits them, he crashes, and then he runs away.
He runs up to the Marathon gas station on 557, which is just south of the interstate. And he's tried to steal this lady's vehicle, her gray Chevy Colorado pickup truck. Well, she didn't think much of that. In fact, she was in the process of gassing her vehicle when he tried to get in, so she appropriately took the gas nozzle and sprayed him with gasoline. Christopher rethought that. He decided that
crime number 2, carjacking, force or fear. He wants to take her car by force. She has to use force to stop him, the gasoline. Crime number 2.
that was not the vehicle that he wanted, so he fled. Well, he ran immediately to a burgundy-colored van that was there, and of course the owner was not in the van, but he was up at the store. The owner said to himself, I believe Christopher Hendricks is trying to steal my van. So the man, who has a concealed weapons permit, promptly pulled out his firearm and extracted Christopher from his vehicle at gunpoint.
So now we have car theft, which is another felony.
He would have been totally justified if he'd have shot Christopher.
Okay, I'm not so sure he's absolutely correct on this. It depends on the state on whether or not you can shoot somebody for stealing your car. Now, if this person's car had a gun in it, had a child in it, then I think we're closer to where you can shoot him because he has to protect the children, or this person is committing another felony, theft of a firearm, when he's stealing this car, and he may use that firearm on somebody. Now I think you're more justified by killing somebody for stealing your car if there's guns in it, because he may likely use those guns and hurt other people.
But he didn't want to do that, and Christopher complied and got out of the vehicle. So that's two vehicles that he tried to theft. So Christopher decides that at this point in his excitement that he should probably flee from this particular location because these folks from Polk County, Florida were not in the mood to have their car stolen or jacked from them this morning. So what does he do? He starts and he runs down the side of the embankment and he jumps onto the westbound traffic of the interstate. Well, there's a fellow driving a box truck.
Jumping into traffic, causing accidents, puts people in danger. I don't think it's a felony, but in his flight, he's putting more people at risk in this crime spree that he's going on.
That fellow says to himself, "Self, I really don't want to run over Christopher Hendricks, who has just jumped into the westbound traffic of Interstate 4. And if that's not a suicidal move, I don't know what is." So he slams on brakes. He is rewarded with his efforts by being rear-ended by a semi. So now we have another crash.
So first crash was a hit and run. We don't know if that has injuries. This has a crash. Again, possible multiple injuries. He's jumping on a highway. He's fleeing other felonies that he's committed. He's a fleeing felon. He's been squirted with gas. He's been taken out at gunpoint. And he's had a hit and run. And now he's caused a major accident on a freeway.
Well, Christopher sees that he's created another kerfuffle. So he flees and he runs to the other side of the westbound traffic where a very nice person driving a green pickup truck has stopped to help. So he tries to get in that vehicle. Well, that fellow doesn't think too much about that as well, and he's got his doors locked so he can't get in there.
So he has another felony, attempted car theft, after he's caused an accident, fleeing the scene of the accident with injuries that he created.
Is Christopher deterred? No, he's not deterred. So he goes to the fourth vehicle. That is another Good Samaritan who stopped on the interstate to try to help in a red Chevy Equinox. He tried to get in that vehicle. That victim grabbed his keys out of his vehicle and he ran. Well, all during this time, people are dying.
Another car theft by force, trying to jump in your car, carjacking, another felony.
911 and our deputies are frantically trying to run in emergency mode to get there. But if you're familiar with this particular area, it's kind of out in the countryside on the interstate. But we arrive. We arrive in force. And we take Christopher Hendricks into custody. And we put Christopher Hendricks in handcuffs in the back of our car. He is not pleased. Christopher Hendricks tries to escape. He kicks the back windows out of the patrol car in an effort to escape.
Damage to property and an attempt to escape custody. Escaping for a felony is probably a felony in most states.
Not only was he going to escape, he was going to steal our handcuffs too. We didn't appreciate that very much.
Theft of handcuffs, I mean, I think we might have charged that a couple times. The DA never charges it, but it's kind of funny.
So finally, we got Christopher Hendricks wrestled under control and locked up in the county jail. It's our goal to send him back to state prison. But first and foremost, I want to thank the two people at the Marathon Station, what I call wonderful people from Polk County.
I love this guy, man. You know, most freaking sheriffs like, you shouldn't take the law into your own hands. That's why we got police. You know, you could hurt somebody. You could find yourself in trouble. You should always just dial 911 and be a good witness. When people tell citizens that, I always know they're full of shit, pro-government, big government, and they want to take away your Second Amendment right and your right to defend yourself and protect yourself. He doesn't play that.
Who said, Christopher, you're not going to steal my truck. You already tore your own truck up. And then when he ran down into the interstate, people trying to help, he tried to steal their car, and they go, you're not stealing our vehicle. And they resisted him. And ultimately, he was arrested. I have absolutely no idea what this guy was thinking. But it was evident this morning he might have had 5 brain cells. 3 of them weren't working.
Hey, if he's got 5 and 3 aren't working, that means he's back to 2 brain cells.
He's locked up in the county jail. The Highway Patrol is assisting. They're doing the vehicle crashes. They will coordinate with and continue to work with our detectives and deputies as we solidify all of the various felony charges against him. Our goal is to send him back to state prison for an extended period of time because it's painfully evident to us that the community is not safe when he's at large.
Okay, pop quiz. Who thinks this person that did 8 years in prison for the attempted murder and pled to aggravated assault, who thinks that was the first and only crime he committed and he got caught? Poor guy. Raise your hand. Yeah, you're a freaking idiot. He's got a rap sheet a mile long. He's been in and out of jail and in and out of the system his whole life. Guaranteed. Rick, you can't say that. That's not fair. You're big. Whatever. I'm telling you, I've dealt with this shit. I know. People don't get arrested the first time they commit crimes.
Now, I know probably his parents will think this is a low-level, nonviolent misdemeanor, and he really didn't mean it, and he's sorry, and he's very sorry, and he didn't mean it, and he won't do it again.
Oh, shit, he should have thrown in there that they're going to pay for him to go to doctor school. That would have been classical.
Until he does it again. But that's not the way the rest of us think in the system. The rest of us understand him for what he is. He's a dangerous man. Are there any questions?
Sir, do you see that the people involved, specifically the victims, were lucky this morning? And you mentioned he could have been shot, so perhaps...
When she sprayed him with gas. The man who owned the other car while he was committing a car crash. She didn't set him on fire when she sprayed him with gas. The man who owned the other car while he was committing forcible felonies had every right to shoot him and didn't. He only used enough force to get him out of his vehicle and on his way. So he was as fortunate as our victims were. Yes, our victims were fortunate. But you know what is really cool about Polk County? We fight back.
Dude, I love this dude. He's as far from being a politically correct dude ever. And that's what I love about him. And I know the left-wing media hates him.
We fight back against criminals. We carry concealed firearms. And heck, the lady who didn't have a concealed firearm had a gas hose, which worked just remarkably well.
I freaking love it.
But even after he was in handcuffs in the car, he still fought to get away. What is he thinking? I think he's thinking, I don't want to go back to prison. But we're thinking, you should. So that's where we are today.
Sir, if you're not allowed to use deadly force for a property crime, why do you say he would have...
Okay, so here's a little pink panty dude asking us a little question about, you said a property crime to shoot him. Isn't that sending the wrong message? Oh, man, these guys just drive me crazy.
Good. So that's where we are today.
Sir, if you're not allowed to use deadly force for a property crime, why do you say he would have been justified to...
Sir, they're not allowed to use deadly force for a property crime. Why are you saying he was allowed?
Well, because that is a, first off, he tried a carjacking with a lady.
Okay, so here's where I think that the sheriff might have stepped on his pee-pee a little bit. If somebody carjacks you with force or fear, and you're in fear of your life, I think you can defend yourself. I don't know what Florida statute is on theft of property. In Texas, if you come on my property and steal something at night, I can shoot you, because that's a law in Texas. But state laws are different, depending on the castle doctrine, or depending on hold your ground or stand your ground laws, depending on whether you're in a liberal DA who will charge you because he hates you because you're defending yourself and he doesn't like that, or whether you're in a conservative area. I'm assuming if this jurisdiction is electing this guy as the county sheriff, they've probably elected a DA that's fairly conservative and believes in the people's rights and isn't going to charge stupid shit when people are defending themselves. I'm thinking, but I don't know.
And then he was doing a burglary of a vehicle, and he was in the string of a group of felonies at the time.
Okay, so I think where he's going is there's an ongoing criminal act that if you cannot show a break in a crime, it becomes one continuous crime, and then you can kind of add the charges together a little bit to more serious. And that's what he's going. And I think where the law would differ with him is if that person shot him for stealing his car, he would have had to have knowledge that this person committed the first hit and run with energies and he's fleeing felon, but we still don't know if he's a violent felon. Then he tried to carjack somebody and they had to use violence to protect their car with the gas. And then he climbed in this guy's car and he took him out at gunpoint. To shoot him then, I think he would have to have knowledge of the first two, and I still think he probably would have been in a little bit of trouble. Again, unless he could say, I had a baby in the car and I was afraid of my baby. I have my address is in my car and my home key is on the keychain and my keys for my car, and he could have went to my house and my address and I was protecting my family. That's kind of pushing it, but it could be. It's better if he can say, I was in fear of my life. See, probably what the guy should have done if you wanted to shoot him is do what the cops do. Jump in front of his car with his gun drawn, saying, get out of my car. And then when the guy moved the car to him, now he's justified to shoot because he's in fear of his life and the suspect is using the car, has a deadly weapon, and now he can shoot him, no problems. He doesn't have to know anything. So, although I don't like this little weasel attorney, I think he kind of got him in a little bit of a pickle because I kind of agree with him. But, I mean, Grady kind of talked his way out of it pretty good by going the ongoing criminal act never stopped. There wasn't a pause.
That sounds pretty shaky.
It is if you're the suspect. I guarantee you, when you start trying to carjack somebody's car at a gas station, you're subject to get shot, and shot a lot.
Now, carjacking is different than car theft. Carjacking is by force or fear. You have to make the person fear their safety, or you have to use some sort of force, either a firearm, a club, a knife. You have to grab the person and throw them on the ground. All those things are force, and that's where you move from carjacking versus this guy's car was parked, he was inside, and a guy jumped in his car and was going to steal it. I don't think they could convict him on that crime for carjacking, and if the guy shot him at that point, I think the guy would have been in a jam. Although I like the sheriff's attitude, but I'm not sure I necessarily agree with him on that one.
Did he have a weapon?
She doesn't have to have a weapon, brother. You can carjack with just pure violence and force.
Now that is correct. She doesn't have a weapon. Correct.
Stealing a car.
He was trying to carjack the first lady. She was gassing up.
With a gun, or?
It's all the same thing. It's all.
So he's trying to say because she was trying to carjack the first lady, it's still a forcible felony just because he ran to another car. He's still in the act of committing this ongoing crime spree continuously without a break in crime. Now, you couldn't say that if he tried to carjack the lady, she scored her gas, he ran home. And then in an hour, he came back and tried to get another car. You could not connect those crimes. That's not going to work an hour later. But because this guy was in a hit and run and ran, and he was on the run, and they were actively pursuing him, normally the way the process goes is as long as you keep chasing him, it's still an ongoing crime. As soon as you stop chasing him, you go get a warrant, you do something, you deter your efforts, you think you lost him, now the crime is over. But even if they lost him after the hit and run, the carjacking when he got sprayed with the gas, immediately running to another car in the same parking lot, is absolutely one continuous crime. And again, I would have to read Florida statutes to see if the judge or the sheriff's right, because he may be right.
All the same event.
You don't think that's a dangerous message you're putting out to Polk County citizens?
That is the absolute correct message I'm putting out to Polk County citizens. You try to break into somebody's car and steal it while they're there with it, that's called armed carjacking.
He wasn't armed.
The other guy was armed. You don't look at individual events. You look at the string of violent felonies he was committing. And that's a violent felony to try to take somebody's car from them with force, with or without a weapon. And you're sending the wrong message. The message is you don't have to have a firearm. You don't have to have a knife to be a dangerous individual. And if you come to this county and if you use extreme violence to try to carjack somebody from their car.
Okay, he's right when he's saying he used extreme violence. I'm not sure this guy used any violence. I mean, I don't like this guy. I think he ought to go to jail, but I'm not sure where the violence is. He tried to take the car. She scored with gas. He left. He jumped in the car. The guy pointed a gun at him, and he left. So I'm not sure we're getting violence in those two things. Definitely not extreme violence.
If you get shot, that's on you. You can protect yourself and your property.
I totally agree with that, and I think the law ought to say that. I don't think he ought to. I think if somebody's trying to steal your car, you shoot him. I think if somebody's trying to break into your house, you shoot him. I think if somebody's trying to rip your purse off your shoulder, you can shoot them. I got no problem with shooting freaking criminals. I got a problem when they let cops go out there and do whatever the hell they want, and they don't charge them, and then they charge pesky citizens all the time. That's where I got a problem.
I think some attorneys would disagree with you, but you're the sheriff, so.
I don't care. That's what attorneys do. Attorney's attorney. But I can tell you right now, you come to this county and you do this string of violent stuff, you're blessed. You're blessed because that man up at that store had the right to protect himself. He had the right to protect his property. He had the right to protect that lady. That lady had the right to protect herself and her property.
Now, he's got a point there because when he saw this guy try to take her car and she had to use gasoline to stop him, that was, I think it was a forcible felony because the woman had to use force to stop him. Therefore, she was obviously in fear, so that was probably a carjacking. And because the guy was on the run, he was a fleeing felon from a carjacking, and then he was engaged in another felony of even if it's just stealing a car, maybe he could have shot him.
Come on, man. What's wrong with you? And then he goes down to the interstate, causes a crash, tries to break in and steal 2 more cars while they're occupied. While they're occupied. You don't think there's a problem with that?
They don't have a right to protect their property. That's what they did do. You were saying he should have shot him.
I didn't say he should have. I said he could have. But he chose not to.
Which is the correct choice, correct?
The choice was that he used the force necessary to protect himself and his property. Had he used that force at the end of that string of violent felonies and encounters and attempted carjackings and stealing from people's cars while they're there in it with it, and subsequently tried to break into and did get into one car with a man in it, you can't break into people's cars and take it with them in it.
Okay, so the problem with this statement that he's doing, let's say, just for argument's sake, that he's not correct and the guy couldn't shoot him. If a citizen, because they watched this sheriff, and a sheriff is the elected sheriff, and he's a high law enforcement official, so we presume he knows the law, he's just told everybody that you can shoot somebody. When somebody shoots somebody, they can play this clip in their defense and say, I was taking advice and training from this press conference from this sheriff who's supposed to know the law that says it's absolutely okay, and now you're trying to convict me of a crime saying it's not okay. I would assume the sheriff is smarter about the law than me, and when I watched him in this thing, that had an impact on my training and my knowledge on when and how to use deadly force. And that's why I use deadly force in my encounter. That could be a problem.
You can't do that. Here's a message. Mind your business. Don't commit crime. Leave people alone. And if you end up in this shape, he needs to count himself very lucky today. You got any other questions?
I do. President Trump tested positive for COVID-19. Why don't you or any of your staff in this building wear masks?
So now this guy is just, I want to got you. Now he wants to say, why don't you and your staff use mask? And he's going with the mask police. And the sheriff handles this perfectly.
I'm not going to answer that question. Do you have any other questions you want me to not answer?
Wait a minute. He's not finished. Wait, here comes the freaking kicker.
That's the one question I have for you, Sheriff Judd.
Okay. President Trump comes here, you don't have to wear a mask either.
You know that chap that little liberals hide. Okay, look, I'm okay with this. Look, remember, the law is as clear as mud. It's all up to interpretation. Lawyers can't agree. DAs can't agree. Judges can't agree. Supreme Court justices can't agree. The law is not clear. And when people say ignorance of the law is no excuse, that's absolute bullshit. There is no way that every citizen should know every law. Hell, we can't even get people to know the damn Constitution. And it's not anywhere near as big as all the crime books out there with all the freaking laws on the books. But you are expected to know every law. That's so bullshit. That ought to be a freaking crime. That's what our legislation ought to be working on, instead of 14 bathrooms and not figuring out which one to use and giving freaking $20 million to Pakistan to study gender studies on some shit when we're going broke here and printing money out our ass. But I digress. Good press conference. We'll end that there.